There are places on Earth that are not merely nature, nor solely the work of human hands, but where two worlds become one: cliffs and temples, caves and sanctuaries, sea bays and ancient citadels. Every stone, every architectural curve feels as though it was born from the mountains, the rivers, from the earth itself. Today, join World Mystery Wonders on a journey to discover 15 extraordinary places where nature and ancient architecture merge into one, and together create a beauty so timeless, even time itself must bow. Petra Jordan. In the heart of the Jordanian desert, where sun-scorched sandstone cliffs glow a deep crimson, lies an ancient city that seems pulled from the pages of legend. Petra wasn't built with bricks and stone. It was carved directly into the mountain itself, as if nature and humankind joined forces to create a masterpiece. Over 2,000 years ago, the Nabatean kingdom transformed this place into a thriving capital. And even today, Petra continues to leave the world in awe. The entrance to the city winds through a narrow gorge over a kilometer long, twisting, narrowing, like a ceremonial passage into the past. The most breathtaking sight awaits at the end. Al-Khazneh, towering nearly 40 meters high, with its Corinthian columns and intricately sculpted facade, this treasury has stunned explorers for centuries. But Petra holds far more than a single wonder. Once, it boasted a theater that seated over 3,000 people, hundreds of temples, tombs, and passageways hewn into sheer cliff walls. Forgotten for centuries, Petra was only rediscovered in 1812 by Swiss explorer Johann Burckhardt. Since then, it has earned its place among the new 7 wonders of the world, a place where every grain of sand, every chisel, mark on stone, whispers of a glorious age long gone. Sigiriya, Sri Lanka. Imagine a royal city built atop a massive rock, nearly 200 meters high, rising out of the tropical jungle. That's Sigiriya, a breathtaking stone fortress often hailed as the 8th wonder of the world. From the base, the journey upward is nothing short of mesmerizing. Past ancient water gardens, perfectly symmetrical in design, then up to the mirror wall, once polished so smooth you could see your reflection, now etched with hundreds of love poems from the 8th century. High along the cliffs, vivid frescoes of celestial maidens still shimmer with color after more than 1,000 years. Closer to the summit stand the massive stone lion's paws, remnants of a grand statue that once guarded the palace gate. And once you reach the top, the view unfolds. The outlines of ancient foundations, a sky pool, and a sweeping panorama of the Sri Lankan forest stretching far into the horizon. Built as a royal palace under King Kashyapa in the 5th century, Sigiriya later became a Buddhist monastery before falling into silence, wrapped in moss and mystery, until archaeologists uncovered it once more, reawakening a legend suspended in the sky. Madonna della Corona Sanctuary, Italy. Perched like a miracle between sky and stone, the sanctuary of Madonna della Corona clings to the sheer cliffs of Mount Baldo, nearly 800 meters above sea level. From a distance, It looks like a dream, a centuries-old chapel emerging from the face of the mountain, suspended between heaven and the abyss. The sanctuary's history dates back to the 13th century, when hermit monks chose a rocky cave here as a place for silent prayer and reflection. But it wasn't until the 17th century that the chapel was expanded into the architectural marvel we see today, one that blends so seamlessly into the mountain that its back walls are not made of brick or stone, but the raw heart of the cliff itself. To reach this sacred place, visitors must climb a steep, winding pilgrimage path through the forest or ascend narrow stone steps carved deep into the mountainside. Each footstep feels like a quiet act of devotion, each turn a journey inward. Standing before the sanctuary, you feel more than awe at the daring architecture. You feel an overwhelming stillness, a silence so profound you can hear your own heartbeat echo between the clouds and the rocks. Madonna della Cororona is not a place for crowds. It is a refuge for souls seeking a moment of peace in a restless world. Meteora Monasteries, Greece. There may be no other place on Earth that makes you feel as small and as reverent as Meteora, where ancient monasteries cling precariously to the tops of towering rock pillars, some rising nearly 400 meters above the valley floor. Since the 14th century, during times of war and chaos, Orthodox monks sought refuge in the sandstone mountains of Thessaly. But instead of hiding in caves or forests, they climbed these seemingly inaccessible stone spires, hauling each brick, each wooden beam, and built monasteries in the sky. For centuries, the only way up or down was by rope and pulley. People and supplies were hoisted in nets, swaying in mid-air, a true test of faith in every sense. By the 16th century, Meteora was home to 24 active monasteries, each a spiritual fortress, a silent sanctuary floating above the clouds. Today, only 6 remain in operation, yet all still radiate the same otherworldly majesty they always have. As the sun sets, a golden hue washes over the cliffs. Monastery bells echo through the valley, and the faint silhouettes of robed monks move through the mist. In those moments, you'll swear you're witnessing something not of this world. Meteora, true to its name, is a place suspended in the air, where the soul feels free to rise and wander with the wind. Mons Michel, France. Some places make you wonder, is this the work of human hands or the dream of the sea itself? Mont Saint-Michel, a medieval abbey perched on a tidal island off the coast of Normandy, is one of Europe's most astonishing masterpieces. When the tide rises, the island becomes a lone fortress adrift in the ocean. When the water retreats, a stone path emerges as if revealed by magic. The first structure was built here in the 8th century, inspired by a vision in which the Archangel Michael appeared to a bishop in a dream, commanding him to build a sanctuary atop the rock. Over the centuries, the site grew from a humble chapel into a stunning architectural complex. A Gothic abbey, bell tower, cloisters, and a surrounding village, all stacked upward like a stone spiral reaching for the heavens. The abbey sits nearly 92 meters above sea level, and during the Middle Ages, it became the 3rd most important pilgrimage site in Christendom. Today, it draws over 3 million visitors each year, regardless of whether the sea chooses to surround it or grant passage. And when night falls, golden lights shimmer across the dark water, and Mons Michel seems to hover between dimensions, a sacred place where the line between heaven and earth blurs in the rhythm of the waves. Hanging Temple, China. At the foot of the majestic Hengshan Mountains in Shanxi Province, there stands a temple that appears to defy gravity. The Hanging Temple, or Zhuangkongxi, clings to the sheer cliffside nearly 75 meters above the valley floor, as if suspended in mid-air. Built over 1,500 years ago during the late Northern Wei dynasty, the Hanging Temple is a breathtaking blend of architectural daring and spiritual devotion. Its entire structure is supported by timber beams embedded deep into the rock face, giving it a fragile, almost weightless appearance. And yet, it has withstood centuries of wind, rain, and even earthquakes. Inside, the temple consists of 40 interconnected halls and pavilions linked by narrow walkways, wooden bridges, and cliffside platforms. But what makes this temple truly one of a kind is its interfaith harmony. It is the only temple in China that simultaneously honors Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism, coexisting peacefully within a single sacred space. Standing at the base of the cliff, gazing up at the temple hugging the mountain's curves, one could almost believe it wasn't built, but born from the rock itself. In the stillness between earth and sky, the Hanging Temple whispers of balance between the delicate and the eternal. Church of St. Magdalena, Italy. Nestled in the heart of the tranquil Vilnius Valley, surrounded by rolling green meadows and whispering pine forests, stands a modest yet enchanting structure, the Church of St. Magdalena, a small country church resting at the foot of the majestic Dolomites, where nature and faith seem to quietly commune. Legend has it that the church was built in the 14th century on the very spot where a statue of Saint Magdalena was carried downstream and came to rest, as if guided by divine hands. Since then, this hill has been a sacred place for generations. The church itself is simple: a pointed tiled roof, an ivory white facade, and a slender bell tower. But its unassuming beauty is precisely what makes it shine against the dramatic landscape. Behind it, the Odal mountain peaks rise like jagged teeth into the sky, often veiled in mist or bathed in golden evening light. When the sun dips low and touches the silvery stone, the entire scene resembles a living oil painting, with the tiny church as the gentle brushstroke that completes the masterpiece. This is not a place of crowds or grandeur. It is a symbol of stillness and purity, a place where the soul can feel both humbled and comforted in the silent majesty of the natural world. Bagan, Myanmar. Not one temple, not two, but over 2,000 temples, stupas, and monasteries scattered across a vast plain along the banks of the Ayeyarwady River. Bagan, the ancient capital of the pagan kingdom, is one of the greatest religious architectural landscapes on Earth, a place that once held more than 10,000 sacred structures built within just a few centuries. At its height, during the 11th to 13th centuries, Bagan was the heart of Theravada Buddhism, where kings competed in devotion by commissioning temples to earn merit. Each structure, whether grand or humble, is intricately adorned with carvings of the Buddha, lotus blossoms, mythical beasts, and scenes from sacred texts. But what makes Bagan truly breathtaking is how seamlessly nature embraces it all. In the early morning mist, the pointed spires pierce the sky like silent prayers. Birds drift through the haze, and the rising sun casts its golden light across thousands of sunburnt brick rooftops. Today, many of these monuments bear the marks of time, some damaged by earthquakes, others left to crumble. But it is this quiet decay that gives Bagan its haunting allure. It needs no spotlight or embellishment, for each sunrise, as sunlight filters through ancient archways, is enough to awaken the echoes of a forgotten golden age buried in dust and silence. Chibita di Bagnoregio, Italy. Perched atop a crumbling volcanic plateau, surrounded by eroded ravines in the region of Lazio, lies Chibita di Bagnoregio, a hilltop village that seems to float between sky and time. Italians call it La città che muore, the dying city, not because its spirit has faded, but because the land beneath it is slowly being worn away by the hands of time. Founded over 2,500 years ago by the ancient Etruscans, Civita once flourished as a bustling medieval town. But soft, unstable soil and centuries of geographic isolation have caused many residents to abandon it. Today, only a few dozen people live here year-round, yet the village's beauty remains untouched. The only way in is across a narrow footbridge that stretches over the surrounding chasm, delicate, yet striking. As you step onto the stone path leading into the village, it feels as though you're entering a portal through time. Tufa stone houses stand preserved. A tiny square hosts an ancient fountain, and ivy-draped walls whisper stories of lives long-lived. On foggy days, Civita appears to hover in mid-air, like a vision from a dream. And it is perhaps in this fragility that it becomes eternal, a surviving fragment of the old world suspended within the modern one. Our Lady of the Rocks, Montenegro. In the heart of the legendary Bay of Kotor, where still waters reflect the sky and green mountains rise like ancient guardians, floats a tiny man-made island steeped in legend and devotion. This is Our Lady of the Rocks, a church quite literally built on stone. According to local lore, in 1452, two fishermen discovered a statue of the Virgin Mary resting on a rocky outcrop in the bay. They brought it home, but by morning, it had mysteriously returned to the same spot. Believing this to be a divine sign, the people of the nearby town of Perast began dropping rocks at the site, day after day, year after year. Over time, from the depths of the sea, an island began to emerge, crafted from stone, faith, and the remains of sunken ships. Upon it, they built a charming church with a pale blue dome and an interior filled with hand-engraved silver votives, each one a story of gratitude and survival. Even today, on July 22nd each year, locals row out to the island in a centuries-old ritual called Fascinada, tossing new stones into the sea to keep the island alive. From afar, Our Lady of the Rocks appears as a quiet jewel resting atop turquoise waters, a symbol of unwavering faith and the human power to turn belief into reality. The Eye of the Earth, Croatia. Nestled among the rugged limestone hills of southern Croatia, where wild forests and jagged cliffs embrace each other, an ancient river gently emerges from the earth, not in a roar, but in a soft, steady breath. This is the Cetina River, and at its very source lies a little-known natural wonder, the Eye of the Earth. From above, the spring resembles a giant turquoise eye, crystal clear, rimmed in black, and plunging into mysterious depths. Divers have measured it to be over 155 meters deep, yet its true bottom remains undiscovered. The water is so pure that you can see every stone, every tendril of aquatic grass, as if peering directly into the soul of the planet. Beside this surreal spring stands a modest stone chapel built in the 9th century, almost hidden within the natural landscape. There are no signs, no crowds, only the sound of wind, the trickle of water, and a silence so profound it feels sacred. This is not a tourist hotspot, but for those who have stood at the edge of this eye, staring down into its impossible stillness, the memory lingers, like touching something ancient, sacred, and utterly untouched by time. Laotian giant Bud, China. Where three mighty rivers converge in China's Sichuan province, a great Buddha has been meditating for over 300 years, gazing calmly down at the swirling waters below. This is the Laotian giant Buddha, the largest stone Buddha in the world, towering at 71 meters high, carved directly into the cliff face during the early 8th century under the Tang dynasty. Just one of his ears measures over 7 meters long, and a single fingernail could seat a grown adult. But what makes this monument truly remarkable isn't just its size, it's its location. Perched at the confluence of three rivers once infamous for their deadly currents, where boats often capsized without warning. Legend tells of a monk named Hai Tong who began the carving, believing that the Buddha's serene gaze would calm the turbulent waters. Though he passed away before the project was finished, his disciples carried on his vision, chiseling away for nearly a century to complete the statue. Perhaps even more astonishing is the ancient drainage system, ingeniously hidden within the Buddha's hair, shoulders, and robe folds, still functioning today to protect it from erosion. And when you stand at the statue's feet and look up at that tranquil face watching over the rivers, you realize this is not merely a sculpture. It is a timeless embodiment of faith, carved into the bones of the earth. Kovados Konchos, Portugal. If you stumbled upon a photo of this place, you might think it's a portal to another dimension, a black hole in the middle of a tranquil lake. But Kovados Konchos, tucked away in Portugal's Serra da Estrela Natural Park, isn't a natural formation at all. It's a piece of human engineering so beautiful it feels otherworldly. Built in 1955, this mysterious lake hole is actually part of an underground spillway system, a 1,500-meter-long tunnel that channels water from the Ribeira das Naves reservoir to Lagoa Comprida, supporting the region's hydroelectric network. Yet instead of a harsh industrial structure, the engineers designed something that blends seamlessly with nature. The circular stone spillway, covered in moss and weathered by time, swirls with falling water like an inverted blooming flower. There are no signs, no fences, no explanations. Kovados Konchos simply exists, quietly, like a secret nature decided not to hide. In spring, the lake is surrounded by green fields and wildflowers, while the water continues to vanish into the earth without a sound. Some places are not born from conflict between man and nature, but from harmony. Kovados Konchos is one such place, where engineering becomes art and a man-made creation takes on the quiet poetry of the land around it. Thrangaviti Lighthouse, Iceland. Imagine a solitary rock rising from the icy Atlantic Ocean. No trees, no paths, no sign of life. And atop that rock stands a lighthouse, small, isolated, yet unwavering, like a lone sentinel guarding the sea. This is Thrangaviti Lighthouse, the most remote beacon in Iceland, and perhaps one of the most inaccessible structures humans have ever dared to build. Perched on a 40-meter-high basalt stack, surrounded by the unforgiving waves of the North Atlantic, the lighthouse was constructed in 1939. At the time, there were no helicopters, no harnesses, only brave workers who scaled slippery cliffs, carrying bricks and buckets of mortar, defying the wind, the cold, and the sheer drop beneath their feet. The lighthouse itself is modest, white walls, a red roof, nothing flashy. But its purpose is monumental. It guides ships away from the deadly reefs and rock formations in these treacherous waters, where many lives have been lost to the sea. Today, Thrangaviti can only be reached by helicopter, and only when the weather shows mercy. Stand atop it, surrounded by nothing but ocean, stone, and sky, and you'll understand. Some places don't need crowds to be great, only a reason to exist, and the courage to endure the storm. Dina Riverhouse, Serbia. In the heart of the emerald green Dina River, where the water flows gently past the Tara Mountains, there sits a tiny house that has captured the imagination of the world. It doesn't rest on a riverbank, nor cling to a hillside. It stands on a lone rock in the middle of the river. This is the Dina Riverhouse, modest, solitary, and unshakably resilient, a quiet symbol of life in the wild. The house was first built in 1968 by a group of young kayakers who wanted a place to rest mid-river. They chose a solitary boulder, a rock shaped by millennia, and hauled up planks of wood by boat, by hand, and sometimes by simply letting the current carry them. Over more than 50 years, the Dina Riverhouse has been swept away by floods, battered by storms, and tested by time. But each time it falls, the locals rebuild it, not just out of habit, but out of quiet reverence, as if the house itself were a vow to nature. We endure. Stand on the riverbank and look toward it. You'll see a breeze stirring its roof, a bird landing for a moment before flying on, and silence gently settling all around. No grandeur, no monumentality. Yet Dina Riverhouse moves the heart. With its quiet strength, its gentle defiance, and the stillness it dares to hold in a rushing world. Today's journey may be coming to a close, but the Earth still holds countless wonders, waiting to be revealed. And if this beauty spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to World Mystery Wonders, to keep exploring the marvels that lie ahead. See you in the next video.